This is one of our planet's biggest rivers, yet it's still a mystery. When it reaches the wild shore of the North Pacific, it has completed a 5,000-kilometer journey. Through Manchuria's sprawling wetlands, alive with colonies of waterfowl. Siberia's woodlands with 1,000 untamed rivers, teeming with wildlife. And the rolling grasslands under Mongolia's big skies, bordering on Eurasia's largest desert. Along its upper reaches, two rivers claim to be its headwaters. Both spring from a sacred place. One, a grassland river, forever struggling against the desert. The other, its banks forever lined with luxurious green. This is a story of unequal twins. And a quest for the true source of the Amur, Asia's Amazon. For 2,000 kilometers, the Amur River's middle course forms the Chinese-Russian border. The further upstream, the wilder the woodlands on either side. The border ends at a confluence, the most significant of the entire river system. These are the westernmost tributaries of the huge river system, the Amur's headwaters. Shilka and Argun, two woodland rivers, a pair of nearly identical twins. From their banks, primeval boreal forest and bogs spread out into three countries: China, Russia, and Mongolia. This cross-border woodland is one of the wildest places on Earth. In these northern forests along the Amur's headwaters, the top predator is the wolf. Downstream the river, wild boar belong to the tiger alone. But here, wild boar are chased and ambushed by Asia's equivalent of Canada's timber wolves. In May, strange clacking sounds echo through the underbrush, reminiscent of Spanish castanets. Black-billed capercaillie have gathered on their traditional leks. The males go to great lengths to impress the hens. Almost all the hens feel attracted to the one magnificent and boisterous male at the center of the lek. The hierarchy among the males has been established in violent battles before the winter. Now the male energy goes into display. The most wanted male never gets a break. In his quarters, more and more hens are lining up. They all want the same, the best possible genes for their offspring. the hens wait patiently for their turn. From the fork upstream, the two headwaters of the Amur River run almost parallel for several hundred kilometers through uniform woodlands. It's hard to tell whether one is traveling up the northern or the southern twin, and nothing indicates which might be the longer one, the rightful source river of the Amur. More than 4,000 kilometers inland, clouds from the Pacific still bring sufficient rain to nurture lush woodland. But further south, the woodland fades away, and it becomes obvious that the two rivers flow from different directions, even from very different worlds. In Mongolia, the southern twin of the Amur's headwaters is called Herlen. Along the Herlen, trees are scarce. This is a land of big skies and distant horizons. The Mongolian steppe is the planet's vastest grassland. Towards south, it blends into the Gobi Desert. How can this dry land bring forth a river? This could be Asia's Serengeti. Each year, 1 million Mongolian gazelles migrate across the plains, stretching along the Amur's upper reaches. Some herds number 10,000 individuals. Once they have left their wintering grounds, nothing can stop their epic journey. Where are they headed? For hundreds of kilometers, hills and valleys roll on in green monotony. But the herds are traveling towards a special destination, following changing routes from year to year, depending on the changing climate. The animals are moving fast, resting only briefly to graze. They get all the water they need from dew on the grass. Most of the females are pregnant. Then, one morning, the herd slows down. This is the place they had in mind all along. Gazelles are not the only nomads here. Mongolian herdsmen are also on the move and have been for thousands of years, yielding to the rhythm this land dictates. The only way to make a living here is grazing. Domestic herds need water and must stay near the river, in contrast to the gazelles. But both depend on ever-fresh pastures. Mongolia is a land with hardly a road, yet the people of the grasslands enjoy unlimited mobility. For nomads, home is a mobile home, perfectly adjusted to these wide open spaces. Neighborhood is anywhere near the river where the grazing is good. Once a suitable spot has been chosen, It takes a family just an hour or two to settle down. Over 1,000 years, the Mongolian yurt was developed to such perfection that it has remained completely unchanged for several centuries. A tarp of camel and goat hair felt keeps the interior pleasantly cool during the short summer weeks and cozy during Mongolia's long, bitter winters. Nomadic herding requires wide open spaces, and if this empty landscape has anything to offer, it's space. Mongolia is 5 times the size of Germany, with only a 20th of its population. Since the days of Genghis Khan, and that's 800 years, not much has changed out here. Who knows for how much longer they will stay in the saddle? In the middle of the steppe's immensity, there is only one place that may get crowded: the waterfront of the Helen River. Demoiselle cranes are not amused when horses trample across their nesting ground. All along the river, every few hundred meters, another pair of cranes has staked a claim. Their clutch on the bare ground is always at risk. Horses are not known for pussyfooting. Eventually, the horses get the message. Two eggs. That's the treasure they have to guard. If they were destroyed, it would take another year until they could breed again. The summer is too short for a second brood. Both sexes take turns in keeping the eggs warm. Pairs usually stay together for many years. The steppe may seem empty, but there are many neighbors, and not all of them are worrisome. Until a few days ago, the young steppe marmots stayed underground. Now, they are old enough to explore their sunny surroundings. Marmots dig their burrows on higher ground, where they are safe from floods and have a good overview. This may not look like a crowded place, but look again. Ducked down in the grass are thousands of newly born gazelle calves. Being invisible is their only protection. Their mothers leave them there all day. These are the calving grounds of the Mongolian gazelles, the only place where the herds stay put for a week until the calves are ready to run with the mothers. Once a day, thousands of mothers find their calves to suckle them. Each calf recognizes its mother by her voice. The young steppe marmots always have their mothers close. As long as the marmot and gazelle mothers are relaxed, the little ones feel safe. This is one of the most peaceful places on Earth. That's why the calves are born here. But as soon as the calves can run, the herd moves on again, on the first great journey of their lives. In a land with no trees, even birds which usually nest in lofty heights are born and raised on the ground. Three siblings in a steppe eagle nest. That's only possible in a year of abundance. For steppe eagles, abundance means many marmots and ground squirrels within their radius of action. The number of predators always depends on the number of animals they can hunt. A mild winter has allowed marmots and ground squirrels to produce such numerous offspring, and that effect is moving up the food chain. The nestlings' chances of survival depends on their parents' hunting skills. Experienced parents succeed more often in passing on both their genes and their skills to the next generation. Young marmots also profit from their parents' experience. Older mothers can better judge what is a safe burrowing site. In contrast to marmots, ground squirrels live in large colonies. Their young stay underground much longer. 4 siblings to suckle. That puts enormous stress on a mother. For several weeks, she has to produce lots of milk and eat as much as she can. Her meals are hasty, never relaxed. Ground squirrels and marmots always scan the sky. The eagles, on their part, constantly monitor all the dens in their territory. It is a battle of the senses, a relentless competition of many eyes. Straying too far from home is a mistake. The margin for mistakes is small for both prey and hunter. The Hairlan, the southern branch of the Amur's headwaters, is a dynamic river constantly renewing itself. Each time the river rises, it takes a fresh bite from the steppe creating new habitats for myriads of animals. In sharp river bends, thousands of sand martins will then dig new tunnels into fresh, clean declivities. Some riverbanks are riddled with hundreds of such tubes. The fine, damp sand of the steppe is the perfect building material, soft enough for tunneling and solid enough for the tunnels to last until the young birds become fledglings. The nestlings grow rapidly. From hatching to flying, they only take 20 days. To achieve this, they have to eat non-stop. The lush grazing along the riverbank keeps herds of cattle nearby. And when there is livestock and dung, the air buzzes with flies, so the parent birds can deliver a meal every few minutes. This is a super productive neighborhood, based on the perfect interaction of river and soil, wildlife and livestock. A delicate equilibrium which only exists as long as the river is flowing. But that can't be taken for granted. Along this narrow green band meandering through the grassland, the harsh character of the Mongolian steppe is easily forgotten. But away from the river, shades of brown will soon dominate. The green depends on how far inland the rain clouds will reach. For much of the year, the clouds never make it this far, and every 3 decades or so there are years without any rainfall whatsoever. This is a land of extremes, allowing only the most resilient to survive. Summer droughts can quickly push life to the edge. Winter is just as harsh. Sandstorms blend into snowstorms. For half the year, icy gales make the Helene floodplains inhospitable. The best place to sit out the winter is upstream, at the southern base of the mountains. In the lee of Arctic northerlies, the gazelles take refuge. By now, the calves have grown up and are hard to tell from the adults. The nomads, too, put up their yurts here. In summer, they let their herds roam freely. But now they keep them closer to their camps, in fear of the steppe's monstrous blizzards. The southern slopes offer more sun and less wind. In the open plains, gales can be deadly. When the wind begins to pick up, the herdsmen hurry to round up their livestock. In a blizzard, the wind is not the only menace. The wolves are here because the gazelles are here. And black vultures are here because of both. Wolves and gazelles together That's what vultures are looking for. All three are keenly aware of each other's presence. Bactrian camels with their thick wool and enormous body mass seem to be the only ones indifferent to the icy temperatures that often drop to a breath-stopping 45 degrees below zero. When they feel a hellish night approaching, they simply stand together, stoically. And this sky has hell written all over it. Driven by gale force winds, the snow is sharp like ground glass. It's this kind of night the wolves have been waiting for. As the storm picks up, the gazelles can hardly breathe, hear, or see. The wolves close in. The gazelles panic knowing the wolves are close. But where? Coming from every side, it seems. The gazelle's flight is literally senseless. At daybreak, the wolves have vanished. The black vultures have just been waiting for this morning to arrive. These are among the world's biggest birds. Here in the steppe, they live on frozen meat for half the year. The harshest of winters is their season of plenty, thanks to the wolves. A pair of black vultures will defend their territory and their meals together. They are partners for life. For more than half the year, rivers and lakes are frozen solid. The air is as dry as in the middle of the Gobi Desert. People and fish are the only ones out here who depend on liquid water to survive. On sunny, windless days, the herdsmen go out to fetch river ice to be melted, little by the fire in the yurt. The water storage has to last for a while. There will be days when it's impossible to leave the yurt because of the gales. For thousands of years, Bactrian camels have been the best and often the only means of transport in Central Asia. The climate can hardly get more continental than here in the cold, dry steppes of Mongolia. There are only 2 seasons, and the change comes overnight. After half a year of bitter cold, all living things yearn for summer. But some summers on the Helene River are even harsher than Mongolian winters. Plants and animals have not only been longing for warmth, but also for water. But every 30 years or so, the long, narrow oasis of the Helene struggles against the encroaching desert. When fewer and fewer clouds from the Pacific reach the heart of the continent, the Helene is in for lean years. The dearth gets more severe with each summer, until the river slowly dries up. Where millions of fish have thrived for well over a decade, the countless lakes and ponds along the Helene are now sucked dry by desert winds. When the desert invades the steppe, salt crusts are the only bitter reminders of vanished wetlands. The last remnants of water are bitter, unfit to drink. Where morning mists used to drift along the river, the wind now drives salty dust across the steppe. During such years of drought, the Gobi Desert creeps north and eastward. The Helene, the Amur's longest headwater, has run dry. Now, the one remaining headwater of the Amur River is the Onon. The northern twin is shorter than the southern one, but it's the reliable one of the two. Along its valley, summers are always green. This is South Siberia, near the Mongolian border. When the Helene wetlands dry up, many animals migrate to the wetlands of the Onon, where amphibians and fish are safe from the 30-year cycle of boom and bust. Grebes and coots, ducks and teals, terns and plovers, cranes and geese all gather in one of the planet's liveliest riverscapes. Along the Onon's green band of active river arms, oxbows, islands and bogs, wetland dwellers can survive the drought years that plague the south. During such years, otter territories up north can get crowded, putting amphibians under pressure. Birds can quickly react to a drought and shift their breeding grounds from south to north for a few years. The climate cycle keeps animals on the move and forces them to adjust and readjust. For most of its length, the Onon runs through Russian territory. On its banks, Russian pioneers built a village. They have been here for 3 centuries. Far from any city, paved road or railway, and more than 5,000 kilometers east of Russia's capital, this outpost is still self-sufficient. A generous nature supplies whatever the people need. Life out here has not changed much over time. It's never been extravagant. There's no need for a nomadic lifestyle along the Onon. For 200 years, before the Trans-Siberian Railway was built, boat traffic along the Amur River was the lifeline that connected Russia's pioneer communities of the Wild East. In summer, traders and troops traveled on water. In winter, on solid ice. Long-distance migration is still going on under the river's surface. Fishes from the Amur's middle course come a long way to the upper reaches to spawn. The fast-flowing Onon, with its pure, cold and oxygen-rich water and its gravelly riverbed, offers ideal conditions for eggs and larvae. The biggest of these migrants is the taimen. Taimen reach a length of 1.5 meters and weigh 40 kilos. This pair has already chosen an attractive spawning dell in the riverbed. A good spawning spot should have rough gravel with pebbles, just the right size to hold the eggs, and with just the right force of current to keep them free of sand and silt. Good vibrations. Male and female synchronize their bodies in order to simultaneously release eggs and sperm. Gravel plays a major role in the life of the Onon River, underwater as well as above. Along the river's upper reaches, gravel is what habitats are made of. The ringed plover could be called a gravel bird. It breeds on bare gravel. Its camouflage blends into gravel, and it feeds in gravel, finding tiny worms and crustaceans. Young plovers can run and find their own food from the moment they hatch from their eggs. This gives their parents a chance to relax and preen in the sun. But as soon as clouds darken the sky, the chicks come running for a warm-up. This is one of the Onon's natural wonders, an 8-legged bird. In midsummer, millions and millions of fish larvae hatch from their eggs all along the Amur's northern headwater. Soon, the shallows are swarming with fry. For local fish like Amur minnow, A multitude of migrant fry means opulence. Voraciously, they invade the taimen and trout spawning grounds. The minnows wait for the current to wash out eggs and for larvae to hatch. They may gobble up thousands of eggs, but as long as the Onon River remains natural and productive, millions of larvae will still continue to fill the Amur's middle reaches with life. The life of a great wild river has its ups and downs. Some are extreme. Some come in regular cycles. After years of drought along the southern twin of the Amur's headwaters, the dry spell is broken. Once again, a sweeping Pacific cloud front pushes inland across the clear blue skies, advancing all the way to the Mongolian steppe. The downpours can be massive. Within days, the parched grasslands turn green. Herds can return. Water brings back life. Hundreds of lakes are filling up. The Herlen, the southern twin, is a headwater once again. The news spreads fast. Between clouds and river, tens of thousands of migrants arrive to take advantage of what may be the opportunity of their lifetime. Once again, wetlands are spreading out. After years without offspring, wildlife is making a fresh start. Young animals are everywhere. Wildlife populations are growing from year to year until all good habitat is occupied. The young demoiselle cranes stay with their parents through the entire summer. The parents show them the best feeding grounds, meadows full of little reptiles. In autumn, they will lead them on their first long journey, from Mongolia across the Himalayas all the way to India. After years of dusty monochrome, bursts of bright colors light up the floodplains and the sandy steppe. Fire lilies, primulas, orchids, and steppe iris. Their roots and bulbs all have survived the dry years deep in the sand, waiting for the rains to trigger their fireworks. The wetlands of the Amur's two headwaters play an important role in the migration patterns of many birds. On their long journeys, the migrants need resting places where they can safely refuel. Among these birds, the swan geese stand out. Their feeding habits are unique. They dig deep craters into the mud to get to the tender roots of bog plants. No other bird competes for this food source. In contrast, avocets scan the shallows near the bank for small crustaceans and aquatic insects. This way, there is no competition and plenty of food for all. Black-tailed godwits poke deeply into the fine silt for mollusks and worms. The migrants stop for just a few days. Before and behind them are journeys of thousands of kilometers. But the Helene itself, a river running through hundreds of kilometers of arid steppe, where does it come from? And the northern branch of the Amur River's headwaters, the Onon, where is its source? Upstream, the unequal brothers begin to look like real twins again, impossible to tell apart. And indeed, they spring from the very same mountain. It is the highest elevation far and wide, densely wooded at its base, its valleys secluded and nearly inaccessible. This summit is the true source of the Amur River, Burkhan Khaldun, the Mongols' holy mountain near the Russian border, a forbidden place known only to its keepers. Mighty demons are said to watch over this source of water and life. This is where Genghis Khan, father of the Mongols, was born and lies buried. Before he died, he decreed this to be holy ground, its wild nature never to be touched. For 8 centuries, the Mongols have respected the Khan's command. The sacred mountain of Genghis Khan milks the very last clouds drifting inland from the Pacific and feeds the 2 source rivers of the Amur. These rivers link the arid steppes of Mongolia to the pristine woodlands of Siberia and northern China. From their confluence downstream, the Amur River runs through the planet's largest unbroken forests. The river soon gathers momentum. An immense network of streams, tributaries of all degrees draining an enormous catchment area, pours more and more water and sediment into the Amur's swelling main channel. Along its middle course, the Amur forms the world's longest river border, with Russia's endless wetlands and wild woods along the left bank. On the bank opposite, China's richest farmland, feeding millions of people. Flowing north from the border, the Amur becomes the biggest river in Russia's Far East. Near the Pacific in steaming summers, animals from the subtropics meet with others from Siberia. The stately Amur drains into the Okhotsk Sea, which boasts the richest ecosystem of the Pacific Ocean. And this is not the end of the river's journey. The big cycle begins anew, with Pacific clouds drifting inland and feeding the Amur's network of waterways. Asia's Amazon.